Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Do You Love Your Wife podcast with myself and Amin.
Oh,
We love our wives. Is that right, Amin? I said I would get you, bro. I said I would get you. Think I forgot?
have you been planning that?
I
You've been
just remembered
planning,
now.
like, how can I get him?
I just remembered.
Okay. Are you sure?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Love and marriage. The beautiful union between two souls. Destined.
I think we did a lot of episodes about like getting married, but we didn't do so many about being and staying married, right? We did one or two.
I think, this topic is one that has, rattled in our minds for years, but you never feel comfortable enough to do it because you don't think you've been married long enough to give the advice, That's how I personally feel. And you get married.
Speak for
I
yourself.
came across a marriage or relationship coach a few days ago. I was like, oh, this brother's young.
Okay.
It was some good advice, but I was like, this brother's young. I don't think I could do that. But 10 years.
It's one of those fields where being older is, kind of looks better, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think you feel a bit more comfortable and you see some things that are, I think like we're getting into a flow of things now within marriage where you kind of like, there are glaring issues out there that need addressing. And you're like, whoa, that's right. As opposed to when you're kind of newly married, you're like, oh, is that right? Let me try that. Let me experiment with that methodology. See how that works in my
Right.
in my workflow.
I suppose ultimately it's about two things, like how long you've been married, not how long you've been alive. How long have you been married? Because some people got married at, I don't know, 20, now they're 30, they still look young, whatever, okay, that's fine. And then also it's like, what have you actually been through? What have you experienced in your marriage, right? Some people, they might be 30, but they had kids when they're 30, right? So they lived very differently to someone who had kids immediately or whatever. Same with, like for example, myself, I know a lot of people have issues in their marriage to do with their in-laws or their parents and clashes between a mixture of those kind of things. I just didn't have that, alhamdulillah. Like I don't have too much experience with that. So like my in-laws are extremely, either they're just on my wavelength or they're like very understanding and very hands-off. And my parents are also very hands-off. So I don't have that issue, you know what I mean? So, many factors.
Also, with the time, you've got exposure to other couples, exposure to other issues. How many brothers have you sat with that have gone through some sort of crisis, and you've tried to advise them?
Yes.
I've gone through plenty, and then you start seeing the differences. You're like, oh, oh, your wife was really out of line there, or oh, you made a massive mistake there. That shouldn't have been done. Like, and then. I've had it too.
I think.
Yeah, go on.
I haven't like spoken to too many people about their marriage. Like they've come to me about their marriage. Maybe a couple like that come to mind, but I'll tell you with those like two that I dealt with, and then those that I've heard of. Honestly, like probably the 80-20 rule here is that 80% of the issues were fundamental like incompatibility from the beginning.
Right.
What have you found?
I think, a running theme, if we were to go through this sort of these notes today, a running theme, as cliche as it is just communication. I think there's a big barrier between, for men to communicate candidly about what their wants and needs are.
Let's. You went to school and you studied English, science, you studied maths. Then you went to university, studied engineering, economics, maybe computer science. But where along the line do you ever learn about how to be a man of character, how to be a man that takes action, how to have a resilient mindset, and to build yourself to become a man that you're proud of, especially the Islamic way? Because a lot of men, when they want to learn how should a man act in this situation, especially in 2025, they will either end up going left side to the feminism or right side to the red pill. Well, I wrote a book specifically that cuts through both of those, and it just goes to the source, to Islam, to show you how to be a man of character according to Islam. I've got a free chapter for you in the description. Click that link, check it out, and if you like it, you can get the whole book.
Get
Let's
to
go
that.
into that. That's very good.
Yeah.
So, but like, what is communication, bro? Because maybe before I got married, I heard that. I think most people hear this communication. But at the beginning of my marriage, maybe because I'd done some reading or something, I remember like kind of like actually discussing with my wife, what does communication actually
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's not obvious, maybe. So, what does it
You
mean?
know, it's more than that. I think there are aspects of it, but like on its rawest form, you've got to imagine this is an individual who is essentially a stranger and a non-mahram to you prior to getting married. And then after you get married, you're essentially closer and more open and more uh, transparent, quite literally, even
Vulnerable.
even
Yeah.
even physically, clothing wise, you can spouses will be able to see each other completely unclothed. All right, imagine that as a context from becoming strangers to that, to the extent that not even your parents would see you in that state anymore. So what does that mean in terms of communication? And I think that's the issue. One thing I realized when I got married,
So people will unclothe their bodies, but not their mind.
but this is it, the extent, to what extent. So I remember, yeah, and this is like a journey. Like every marriage is a journey. Okay, every marriage is a journey, and with enough communication, you start realizing the issues you might have had earlier on in your marriage, and then realizing, like this year, for example, I've realized so much about myself and our marriage, and it's the best it's ever been, without a doubt, right now, because I've throughout the years I've worked on this issue of shyness and communication, to not just like this vague notion of communication. I'm talking about as candid and as open as you could possibly imagine, to the extent that it almost feels wrong. That's the thing. No,
Okay.
no, honestly, it almost feels wrong to do, because we are taught a level of haya and a level of modesty that actually on paper doesn't need to be there with your spouse. Okay, this is the thing. Yes, there's intimacy and there's the physical acts of intimacy. Okay, but there's a communication of a communication surrounding intimacy. So communicating about intimacy, for example, communicating about your wants and needs, and we'll get into that a bit later on. That doesn't actually exist, and what ends up happening is like the wife or the husband have these separate issues or separate wants and desires that aren't communicated effectively enough because of this shyness, because of this hair, because we can't talk about that. Sure, when the mood is right, you might engage in certain levels of conversation, but when it's like, the middle of the day and you're having your coffee and your kids are running around or whatever you want to call it, are you speaking about those issues? You're not, because there's a level of, I mean, okay, of course not in front of the kids, you know what I mean, but I'm saying, when in a sanitized environment, are you happy to just bring up that conversation? Are you happy to bring up some issues or some wants and needs, or some ambitions and goals you have for your? And it plays into what I've found recently. Many, many, many issues I think we've seen as of late. And we'll go down the list if you've got it up, but I think it's worth it, because that's the base, and I think that base connects to every single issue that we might bring up tonight. You know.
Okay.
So, man, this is a Chat GPT show notes. Okay, it's based on a folder that I've got in my Chat
All
GPT,
right.
where I'm like throwing it. Just like I've got some folders where I just throw it some thoughts all the time. I might save this for
Okay.
later. Save this for later. I might tweet about this, you know. And then I basically told it,
Okay.
hey, all these stuff I've been like thinking about and tweeting about and whatever, put it into some show notes, because
Yeah.
let's chat it up. So why this conversation matters. Some of the headings is given us: online discourse pushes scorekeeping, red pill fantasies, and performative masculinity. I think 100%. Okay, Muslim men are taught that variety is a path to happiness, and real marriage success comes from character, depth, and emotional maturity. So, what are some of the common, you know, discourses out there in the Dawah scene or in the Muslim scandal scene? we not equating those two, by the way. I'm just saying there's a scene of scandals that that Muslims,
That's definitely a
you
scene.
know, there is a scene for scandals, I suppose, that always crops up. Gender wars.
Yeah.
One that was quite prominent recently was like this big discussion on misyar and secret second wives and stuff like this. And a lot of what we just spoke about, I think, it's underpinned by this communication element, for better or for worse. But you know, let's throw it out there. Like, what are your thoughts on that kind of arena at the moment, especially in the English speaking Muslim scene?
I mean, I don't think it's anything special. I think that these are the exact same topics that get amplified, probably amongst all like communities or groups. You know, you even funny actually. I've not heard it much in the like business sphere, but anyway, yeah, it's normal. Like people, you know, my friend who's like a historian, he's like, look, the number one thing that they come and get you with is sexual misconduct or you know, some sort
Yeah.
of scandal, affair,
Yeah.
something like that. He said, was it JFK? I believe JFK, because he had an affair with his wife, but it came out later. When he got elected and he sat in that Oval Office or whatever, apparently, what's his name, Hoover, the head of the FBI, came into that office with a folder of everything they've got on him.
Yeah.
And they said, basically, he said, look, we've got this, so be a good boy.
Yeah.
And it's because it's the most, for whatever reason, it's one of the most powerful narratives you can have on someone, right? It's the thing that attracts people to, not just to feel disgrace, shame, whatever, but also it's people want to talk about it for some reason,
course, yeah.
right? Yani Allah made us like that, whatever, right? So it's no different amongst us Muslims, bro. It's no different. I suppose there's a layer of, there are a few layers that come in. For example, the fact that in Islam, men can have multiple wives, that adds a little, you know, a little streak, right? Then there's misyar, for example, that adds a streak. There's, you know, the fact that maybe there could be loopholes and people get married secretly and stuff like that. So that, but I think honestly, this is like really just surface level little things, but it's the same concept or element across anyone.
Yeah.
It's just like sex sells, blah, blah, blah. So nothing too special, nothing too fancy.
And I think, you know,
in my opinion,
I think where it drew a lot of attention is because it was becoming, I wouldn't say widespread, but it was becoming associated with, you know, people of influence and people of dawah, I suppose, in the scene. And
well, again, that's because that's how they get you. You know, if you wanted to go after a dawah figure, that's exactly how you would go after them. Again, somebody who had that kind of negative agenda, and I believe that's happened, right? I believe it's happened. Like, just to, so we can be specific, the whole Norman Ali Khan thing that happened a few years ago. I still don't know what happened, but I just know that I guess I never looked into it after it all blew up, and I just got some vague information. I was just like, well, whatever, it doesn't concern me. But I was thinking, you know what? This guy is very influential. He's very big. And if I was, wanted to stop the spread of Islam, because no doubt, he was contributing to that, then I would just like throw this up there,
Well, I wouldn't go so far to say, there's a conspiracy behind it. I think it's just, at the core of it.
Well,
all.
I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just saying it's definitely a way that you can go after a dawah figure, no doubt about it.
I think at the core of it, it really is, what it is human nature at its core, and attraction and infidelity and all of this sort of stuff is just part and parcel of, from the most famous people to the most unfamous people. It exists across the board, and if anything, fame attracts opportunities for infidelity more than anything else would. right? Fame and
Oh, for
fortune.
sure.
So, of course, the temptation and the tests will be there way more for these figures than it probably would for
Yeah.
anyone else. And I've seen that firsthand because I've sat with these people before. I've sat in rooms with these people before, and funnily enough, this Misyard thing, for example, before the biggest scandal. I say scandal. I didn't delve into it, but you see it thrown around a lot. That I don't really want to dig into the source, but some of the videos as well that these scandals are like hours and hours long, and I'm like, I have not got the time to to sit and listen to 4 hours of gossip. But anyway, and that's a lot of it is that. But what I would say is, where was I saying? What was I saying? Yes, ultimately, um, it's about this sort of fame aspect and about temptation presenting itself. What I was going to say is I came across this whole discussion way before the YouTube thing. I actually came across it through people that I knew that were having issues with their marriage and people that had just been divorced. And it was so abstract and foreign to me. Like I'd heard of obviously second wives, but Missy Art specifically was so. And when I say Misyar, I'm talking in terms of, because I think there's quite a broad range of what Misyar could be. At its core, it's I believe a sister mainly foregoing some of her rights in a marriage contract, and those rights could be, or you don't have to
In
provide for
fact, like
me,
spending on
you don't
her.
have to spend on me, you don't have to see me X Y Z amount of time, etc., etc., etc. And there's a scholarly discussion and there's a fatwa discussion and there's all sorts. But I'm talking about what I want to discuss more is the core intention that would leave someone to even explore something which is frankly very unconventional in this day and age amongst our culture. It's not prevalent. It's not something that is necessarily every person that wants to go and get married has it in their head. Like, it wasn't something that crossed your mind when you were getting married, or I crossed my mind when I was getting married. Like, oh, I also want to have option to have a miscarriage marriage one day. Like, it's just so foreign. It's so. So let's be frank about that, okay? So the argument, so the discussion came up. I went to a guy's gathering. It was like an event. I think it was like a aqiqah or something, and there was a lot of public figures and a lot of unpublic figures, and they're all sitting in the room. And this topic came up, and I was just like, "This is." And admittedly, I'm from Brighton, and I'm different to a lot of Londoners, and that this was all in London, and I just kind of chalk a lot of this sort of. This stuff up to a different culture completely. Like, I am not from here. I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is crazy to me.
Okay.
So there was that element, but there's also brothers in private that have actually engaged in it. They've actually spoke to me. They've actually told me, "Oh yeah, I was struggling to get married." Like, I had one brother who'd got divorced and he was looking to get married again. But in between getting married, he decided to like embark on this thing, this misyar thing, and I was just like, I couldn't understand it because in my head, I got him to break it down for me, and I said, I don't think whatever this woman is agreeing to, I don't think it will remain that will remain the agreement, because any woman's going to get emotionally attached, any person will get emotionally attached, and they'll always want more. And I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. And lo and behold, to cut a long story short, next time I saw him, yeah, they'd split up. And why was the reason they split up? Oh, she wanted more than what she agreed to. Well, of course she did. And it ties into what we were saying. I said it on Twitter a few times.
So why did he want that? Why did he go for it?
Well, this a good question, and we can discuss that. We can explore that, because I don't really know till this day. Because why would you divorce someone, and then in the process of looking for a wife, a family wife, family wife, new family, starting a new family, you wanted like this intermission exploration. I can't find the one, so I need to release my temptation right now in a quote unquote halal way until I find that. So this was just a use and lose situation, right? And it speaks to, and look, I say one brother, but this is I've seen it across multiple, and that debate, for example, that was that had taken place with lots of people in that room. Some were arguing for it, some were completely clueless, and some were very silent. Right, so it just made me realize there is actually a core issue here, And it starts with the current marriage that people are in. At what point?
So that's in the case where, so because the situation that you described, the brother, oh no, he wasn't married, and then he did it before he got married.
He was
right?
divorced. Okay, so
He was divorced.
yeah,
So he got married, he got divorced, and then he got this
Yeah.
kind of Messian
Yeah.
marriage, and then he divorced her, and then he was looking
Yeah.
for a
And
couple,
look,
whatever,
there's a
wife
spectrum.
after
There's
that.
a spectrum of situations. Like there's a situation of a brother that got married that I spoke to. Bro, within months of that marriage, he was making like not second wife jokes, but like a joke as if essentially he'd spoke to his wife about getting a second wife, and he was exploring the idea. And I was like, wow, so soon? What's what's going on here? Like, what is this? It's so foreign to me. I was trying to explore, like, where is this coming from? And look, this isn't a commentary about the halal and haramness of second wives, but the discussions always float around: should I tell my wife? Should I speak to her? Should I keep it a secret? There's always like this aura of secrecy and house of cards, so to speak, and like setting yourself up to fail. And I just want to bring it all the way back to the current marriage. What is happening there that is letting your eyes wander? I think that's a core thing. That
So in the situation where someone's married and they're looking for a second wife, and that second wife could be Messiah or
be anything.
traditional.
Yeah, because it's
Right.
beyond. Look, let's just say not just Messiah. It could be even, look, let's just say flat out sin, like I don't know, engaging in illicit relationships with someone outside of marriage, or cheating on your wife, or a prostitution addiction, or pornography addiction, or stuff like that, because this is not spoken about nearly enough, and it's super prevalent because all I hear is stories upon stories. But also, even if on the wide scale of things, let's be real, it's a minor issue, it is blown out of proportion online to the extent that every girl that wants to get married has this fear that she's going to end up with someone like this, or deal with these problems one day, and it cripples and paralyzes people from marriage. It really does, the women especially. So I think I think we need to discuss marriage from that angle, and what is leading men to feel unsatisfied, or leading women to feel unsatisfied within their marriage, and how much work is really being done in marriages that not prevents people from looking elsewhere, but also doesn't enter that sort of arena at all. Because the key,
Well, let me flip
for
the
it.
whole thing upside
Go
down
on,
for
flip
you,
it,
brother.
ruin me.
My friend, he's got two wives. He said when he got married to the second wife, his parents got mad at him.
Yeah,
And they said, what's wrong with the first wife?
yeah.
He said, well, the first wife was so good that I wanted another one.
Good for him.
And he was joking,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He was joking, but it's actually a good point.
Yeah,
Like this is probably the narrative that this is the path that women go down. They're like, oh, what was wrong with me? Why did he marry someone else? What's wrong with me? Or am I not good enough? I was not necessarily always.
but do you know what? From a man's perspective, every guy I've spoken to about this situation, or about these kind of thoughts, or those who've engaged in it, they've always had a problem in their marriage. They've always named something. It's whether they're not getting.
But maybe we shouldn't paint it that that's the only situation in which people seek another wife.
What I'm trying to say is, the topic here, and I kind of want to restrain it to this, because I get that there are definitely people out there in multiple plural marriages, polygamy, whatever, that are doing it with justice, doing it with transparency, doing it quote unquote for the right reasons, okay, whatever that may be. And I don't really want to talk about that, only because it kind of just brushes the issue that we're trying to address under the rug. If you are happy and prepared and man enough to do what, like your friend, more power to you. Allah bless you with what is halal. May Allah give you more power. May Allah give you the justice that is required. But when you start a conversation off with like, oh, I've got this issue in my marriage, and I've got this issue in my marriage, and oh, she's not doing this and she's not doing that, and you know, I want to get a second wife, and blah, 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 blah. And I've tried so many things.
Yeah.
Then I'm thinking, you don't want a second family. You just want an outlet. No one's saying, I
Okay.
want a second family, I want a third family, I want a fourth family. No one wants, like you said, that your friend said, oh, my first wife was so good, I want a second one. Like, my first family is so good, I want another family. No one's saying that. They're just isolating the wife and saying, I want a second wife, I want a second experience, I want a second outlet, as if that will
Okay.
that will
And
fix them.
maybe to prove that point, he his second wife was pregnant like within 6 months of marrying her as well. So
And there's, that's
yeah, maybe.
it's to have a man that's going to hold down that responsibility and actually, not just have an outlet, but have a wife with the qima of a wife and the respect of a wife, and the you're not a secret thing I'm ashamed of a wife. You're a wife just like she's
So
a
I
wife.
think the issue here. Assalamu alaikum, Mind Heist listeners. I've got a brand new YouTube channel that I've just launched and it gone off to a bang. And it's all about hijrah, global living as a Muslim. I've lived, alhamdulillah, in 4 different Muslim countries, although I was born in the UK. So if you're interested in that at all, you're either living abroad or you're thinking of making the move, then check out the link in the description for my YouTube channel. And I hope you enjoy and benefit. Here is the issue here is the whole secret thing, because why are you gonna get married in a secretive way? Well, it's because you're not getting on too well with your first wife, and so firstly you're not getting on well with her or whatever.
Yeah.
So therefore you want the other one, but then also when you go to get that second one, you're not really going to communicate with the first one because
But
your relationship is not going to be strong enough.
It's patchwork. It's patchwork. It's the same outlet that men who cheat on their wives, or men that go and see prostitutes, or men that go and have porn addictions or whatever. It's the same outlet with a wrapping around it. And this is the problem I want to talk about. I'm trying to talk about what is the source of infidelity. And I'm not saying that misyar or second wives are infidelity, but I'm saying that it's often, at least in my experience
You're
speaking
saying
to
it
people,
could be the same source.
same source. And that's what I think I want to address today. Because, like I said, there's plenty of people that are doing it the right way, and there's plenty of people that do it for the right reasons. But let's address this first, so that we don't end up with many, many broken homes and broken marriages and kids caught in crossfire. Because the second point, let's go on the list, depth, not variety.
Okay.
So the issue that people will, talk about a lot is like, oh, the reason you're unhappy in your marriage is because men are naturally polygamous creatures, and because of that, you just naturally want to have many outlets. You want variety all the time. When really, you haven't actually enjoyed your current marriage to the fullest, because going back to what we said before, the first point of call is you just haven't communicated enough. And my theory is, and you can push back or explore it with me, my theory is like what we said in the beginning. We're Muslims. We have this certain adab, we have this certain hishma, this shyness, and we see a Muslim sister with hijab, etc., and we speak to them in a particular way, and we respect them in a particular way. And then overnight, that woman becomes halal for you in almost every possible way, bar one way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made everything halal bar one act, which means you're meant to be as intimate as possible with this person, and كما يقول الله في القرآن, as this is your soil, so to speak, to what's the word I'm looking for?
Till it.
You know the word I'm looking for. But this is it. So from like what one night, that's it. Now, a lot of that stuff comes naturally. The physical act of intercourse comes naturally. The physical act of intimacy comes naturally to a lot of people. But it hasn't actually been maximized to its fullest potential because the communication isn't there. Unless you are prepared to communicate and you can break those barriers down. Anyone with an ounce of, hishma and iman will find it very difficult to go from 0 to 100 in terms of communication. And it takes a lot of growth and communication and the ability to sit down with your spouse and speak about what you like and what you don't like and what you want and what you don't want, especially with a hypersexualized society that has so much out there to say about this matter, and you're hearing it and seeing it, even if you don't want to, out there. But then in your marriage, you just won't speak about those things. And your wife is meant to automatically know what you like. You're meant to automatically know what your wife likes. There is no sexual education. There's no education on intimacy. The last time you've ever heard anything was back in PHSE in year 8, when you were a young teenager, or you've heard something from your non-Muslim friends during their promiscuous days, or you've got that one Muslim friend that is a bit on the dark side of life that, you know what I mean? And this is what I'm saying. Like, so you're not going to speak to your parents about it unless you've got parents that are just young and hip and ready to talk to you about those things, right? So who do you talk to? The only person you can freely talk to about these things is either a coach, if it gets to that point, like a marriage coach or a relationship coach, or your spouse, all right? But these guys, bro.
And your spouse is the main one that you actually are shy of.
The spouse is the one you're shy of.
Yeah.
So, for example...
You know what it's like, bro? It's like, imagine you're vegetarian or like vegan, right? But you're not a vegan in like San Francisco. Yeah. You're a vegan in like flipping Congo or something, right?
Yeah.
Or let's say in Algeria, because maybe Congo, like, money's, what's it called? Meat is hard to come by or something. But imagine you're in Algeria and you don't eat bread.
Right, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like you're in this society that's like bread. Then overnight you can eat bread, but like just like a bit of bread.
This is it, like the cheat. So the fast.
Okay, and you're curious about all of this bread that this whole society is discussing and forcing down your throat.
Okay, yeah.
But bread, bro, you don't eat bread. You haven't been eating bread.
This is it. It's
so.
Look, it is a right.
It's actually extremely uncomfortable. Like, it's extremely uncomfortable to. Yeah, for whatever reason, yani, alhamdulillah, I would say it's like a good thing. It's not like something like, we should like be angry about or fed up or like, what's wrong with me? It's good, yani. Like, when Adam and Hawa, when they ate from the tree, their clothes came off and they covered quickly and they were like, they felt ashamed.
Yeah.
So that's good. But I think for the sake of, look, bro, like in Islam is so practical and flexible because it always leads you, all the little rules and the fiqh rulings and stuff, it leads you to an end goal, right? And like that's what the ulama, they kind of codified these, what's it called? Maqasid, like the end objectives of the Sharia.
Of course.
So for example, the Sharia wants the Muslims to get along with each other and not to have issues and arguments between each other and hatred. Therefore, when you do transactions, you should have a contract. When you loan someone money, you have to write down a contract, right? Even if you're illiterate, you can't write, you need to find somebody to write down your contract when there's a loan.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's not it's not, because Allah said, it's not just that, it's because it's to avoid the disagreements, fights, hatred, etc. Same with riba, same with so many rules when it comes to transactions. And where was I going with that?
Maybe you were talking about like in terms of marital contracts and that element and why there's a...
No, well, I don't know, maybe because I'm thinking about shyness and stuff.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
There's like... Yes, that's it. So in 2025, maybe to achieve the maqsad of marriage, right? And therefore maqsad of having families and therefore societies, etc. Maybe like some of these wacky things that you hear about, okay, that people do in their private lives, just because you're living in 2025 in whatever society with whatever internet, you're kind of curious about it. Maybe for the sake of your marriage, you owe it to yourself to explore that with your
of course.
Wife or husband.
100%.
Because without that, it would keep you constantly like wanting, if you like. And who knows, like down the line, not over months, but over years, it could cause issues like we're discussing, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Right? And so it's very uncomfortable in the moment, but maybe you have to go through that discomfort for that greater good. It's funny to call it a greater good, but wallah, it could be.
And look, there's so much I could say, bro. Like, I was looking into this kind of the history of it. I mean, I shared a few things. There was Habib Akande. He's a researcher in this kind of stuff, and he was talking about how historically this sort of discourse was way more open and transparent. In the old seekers of knowledge, and then it wasn't until like colonialism that we adopted this level of hishma and shyness from Christendom that silenced that narrative and silenced the education aspect of this. So, um, and you can
Right.
imagine that. I mean, we had where did celibacy really originate from? It didn't originate from us. It originated from monks and Christianity. And when we get
Yeah.
colonized, that kind of cultural celibacy gets thrown upon us and imprinted upon us. When actually look at the ahadith of Prophet ﷺ and how women would come up to him and discuss their dissatisfaction with intimacy to him, and he would call the husband and either reprimand or advise him, etc., etc. And there's many narrations like this where the Prophet ﷺ advises on intimacy. Someone asks him a question, etc., etc. And then the scholarly works after his death, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of all the generations that came after him, of the ulama that came after him, and the books that were written and the discussions that were had. And then you come to the big 2025, and it's just, oh, don't talk about that. Oh, how could you, like, it can't be an open discussion. Oh, we need to put
Well, but this is the thing, though. I don't think anybody is going to tell you don't talk about that. Like, yes, some people have been like, I don't know, they make videos
yeah,
or podcasts or whatever, and they're vulgar almost for
yeah,
the
yeah,
shock factor rather than for the
benefit, yeah,
benefit. And obviously, there's always a time and place for everything. But we're not even talking about
no,
that. We're talking about with the person that you are literally the most vulnerable with,
okay, yeah,
generally,
yeah,
right?
100%.
Like, so, you're not gonna like open up to your wife and she's like,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
"Ugh."
And look, that's the surprise, because who is more shy than me or you? It's the spouse themselves. It's the wife themselves. A woman's going to have more shyness a lot of
Yeah,
the time to speak about these things. Actually, maybe, I mean, dude, like,
for
girls
sure.
talk about things all the time. Girls have discussions amongst themselves, and I think men are just oblivious to that world and that aspect. And actually, maybe your spouse, and this is obviously to other brothers out there, your spouse might have wants and needs that she just would love for you to ask, would love for you to communicate, but there's no opportunity to do so, and you haven't
Yeah.
invited that discussion. Um, and it, uh, and this is all about the depth element we were talking about, like digging deep into that marriage and what you can actually take out of it. That really, the cheat code that many brothers actually default to is looking elsewhere. Because why is that? Because the new and the what's the word? The new and the shiny is always automatically exhilarating. Okay, that's how I would
Yeah.
describe it. So, how do you bring that exhilaration into your marriage? Because a lot of brothers will think, "Oh, it's normal for my marriage to become stale, which is why I need to go and look elsewhere. My marriage is stale and
Right.
boring and samey, and because of that,
Not
that's what
necessarily.
society always says marriages are. The Simpsons or Family Guy or all this pop culture stuff. The joke is
That's true,
always like,
Rama.
"Oh yeah, I come home and I get shouted at by my wife, but Stephanie at work always looks at me with love and attention, like that kind of narrative. I've got my work wife, or I've got,
True, true.
and that
Yeah.
there's a normative narrative.
Work wife, is that a thing? Yeah.
It's a thing, bro. Look it up. Don't look it up, but it's there.
Work wife,
But this is it.
Okay.
It's a cultural thing. It's like it's ingrained
Yeah,
in
you're right.
pop
You're right.
culture that the new and the outside is exhilarating, and that's what hooks guys into this, slippery slope.
You know what? What the sad thing is, bro,
Yeah.
is that if you wanted a second wife for the novelty and hoping that she would be whatever open to the whatever you had in mind, you're still gonna have to explain it to her.
Of course. And
It's just I don't know what the hope is that she. Oh no, but she's different. She's gonna initiate.
yeah.
I don't know.
But the argument,
What's
okay,
the thought? Do you know what the thought process is?
look, that word you just said, initiate, I think that's a great example, an amazing example, because initiating intimacy is something that uh, I'd argue maybe guys do a lot more than women, but maybe guys want women to initiate more. How do you communicate that? You sit down and you have a conversation. You have a conversation with your spouse.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
painful.
But you know what? My argument, like it or love it, my argument is that your marriage that you're in right now could be the best thing on earth for you, because the one thing your wife has and the one thing your husband has for the women that no one else has is that they know you inside out. They know everything about you. And that experience, that fact heightens every single experience, onto another level, because what you're seeking for out there is a momentary, outlet that you think is going to be a quick patch to your problem. When, let's say, you go down the marriage route or the misyard route, you haven't solved your problem, actually. Your problem is that
Yeah.
you don't know how to extract the best out of your marriage or your relationship. Seeking another one
Yeah.
only clones the issue.
Yeah.
It
So
might.
what you should do is extract the most from your current marriage,
Yep.
then get another wife
If
and extract the most from that one.
if you have capacity.
That's exactly what you're saying, isn't it?
if you But all I'm saying is you wouldn't even need to. You would be so fulfilled 9 times out of 10 that you wouldn't even need to, because look, unless you're going to do the transparent, I'm going to have multiple families, I'm going to announce everything, I'm not going to give myself a headache and have to like play a 007 spy game every time I want to flip and leave the house, unless
Ah,
because
yeah.
because otherwise all you're doing it for is for an outlet, not for a family, not for true.
So so you're saying, bro, basically
Go
like
for it.
100% of this phenomenon is due to mostly men, like whatever,
Mm-hmm.
9 point whatever times out of 10, wanting specifically a sexual thing, whatever it is. Is it just because of that, you
Okay,
would say?
I would say, look, what was the marriage app called that came out that was all about this sort of stuff? What was it called? Remember, there was
No strings
no
nikah.
strings in the cat. What does that mean? It means I don't want anything but intercourse and intimacy. That's all I want. No strings.
Yeah.
And it was bubbling, and bro, wallahi al-azim, I kid you not, there was like some adverts that were shared about it, whether they were posts or whatever going viral. And I think it was Mehdi, wasn't it, who made it. For some reason,
Yeah.
he decided to share profile pictures of people, but like kind of blurred out. And I recognized one of the brothers that came up on that profile picture. You know, I
Oh.
recognized because I don't know how or why I recognized him. He had a different pseudonym. But it was like an advert, like, check out, this is how our app works. And I recognized the brother, and I recognized that he got married the same time I did. And I recognized he posts about his family and how happy he is and the girls and whatever all the time. And then I recognized that, I can't remember how I knew, but I knew that it was a secret, like this was a secret endeavor, right? And it made me think. And it just made me think. And I just thought, okay, no strings means you only want one thing. And not just them, by the way. The girl, ideally, getting into this predicament also wants one thing, right? For whatever reason. I'm not saying that what I'm proposing will completely eradicate the need or the want. I'm saying it will put a massive dent in those that don't need to go that far. Like maybe 50% of people that are engaging in this, if they were really to, because there are some things,
Maybe more even.
probably more. There are some things that you can't go back from. There are people that are really damaged, for example. There are people that are really abusive. There are people that are trapped in marriages that they actually can't get out because they are chained and enslaved in a way that we couldn't even imagine because of just the issues that are out there. There's women that are trapped in marriages that are completely loveless and they're just being used and whatever. And I'm not necessarily talking about that. I think there is it's like that curve we were talking about. I think the bulk of people are actually, they got married for the right reasons. They, in their wedding, they were so happy and they were so excited. And then they got complacent, and both couples, or maybe one wants something that they haven't communicated to the other well enough, and vice versa. And because of that, like we said, they're getting attention elsewhere that they haven't got at home. And what is it? And we could break it down forever. And there's so many tips and tricks and avenues to walk down. But ultimately, like I said, the core of it goes down to that communication element. I'll give you an example. That brother that we spoke about, who he got divorced. Why did he get divorced? Okay, his wife put on weight. His wife was really busy with their kids. he he didn't feel like he was being given enough attention, whether it's intimacy, whether whatever. And ironically, he would come to me for assistance and help and advice, and his wife would come to my wife for help and advice. And this is why I'm talking about this now, 10 years later, because not only have I experienced a lot of stuff, my wife has obviously had lots of people come to her. Oh, you seem like you have a great marriage. Like, what can I do? What can I? And it's opened my world up to the issues of women and how they're married to guys that are just clueless. They just haven't got a clue that their women are struggling, and the women are like, how do I communicate this to him, or how do I ask for this, or how? So that example, I was going back to it. We spoke about, okay, does she want to, I don't know, lose weight or get more fit or have more energy? Yeah, she does. What have you done to help her with that? What do you mean? Okay, so do you take the kids off her so she can have time to exercise or watch her diet or whatever? Because clearly she's got the same ambition. How much have you facilitated for? Well, Aki, I don't have time. Aki, I can't. So she's meant to just solve the problem on her own, and you're not meant to assist in any way. You've got a house full of kids, mashallah. Is that possible? is there an ability to do that? Or my wife doesn't make effort in.
Well, you gotta save it with, you gotta solve it. Sorry,
Solve it.
you gotta solve it with your time or with your money.
Exactly.
pretty much.
Exactly. But
So,
money. That's another thing. Like, I feel like guys default a lot to like throwing money at the situation because they can't bring themselves to really put the work in. Like, marriage takes work. If you want to make it what it should be, it's like totally of kids. You want to raise your kids, you want to be a good father, it takes work. You don't just throw money at the situation.
Yeah.
And it's the same with marriage. Like, marriage isn't
well,
going to be,
there are many situations in which money does help
course,
as well,
1000%.
but a lot of people don't.
of course,
A lot of people don't have that spare cash.
of course, 100%, 100%. And like, this was it. So I think he did get a gym membership for her or something, but he wouldn't watch the kids or have the kids when she needed to go. So she gave up going because she just couldn't
Well,
find the
that's
time.
pretty useless,
Right? It's like,
yeah.
well, and then it became like this thing of this complaint, and it just grew, and then it was like, oh, do I get a second wife or do I not? And frankly,
So what would have, do you think, Danny, from what you know, what would have happened in that case if he did transparently go for a second wife? Do you think like the first marriage would have broken down?
yeah, 100%, 100%. I think that was a lot of, not just this brother, but a lot of other brothers that have had this issue. It gets brought up and spoken about, and unfortunately gets spoken about after long complaints of the wife. And it's almost like, oh, you listed all these complaints about me, then you felt like I didn't solve them or fix them, and because of that you're punishing me by getting another wife because clearly I'm not good enough for you anymore because of all the reasons you listed. Right?
Yeah, that's true. It's like now you can't say I want a second wife because my first wife is so good. You can't say that line because you've just opened up about the issues you have.
100%. And it's also a mindset of what is this guy like personality wise? Is he I spend every waking moment I can with my friends. I'm either at work or I'm with my friends, and I don't really spend much time with kids. Like, it's a cultural thing. I mean, one brother, he came of this kind of mindset. The day his wife was giving birth, she was in labor, and he came. I was with some other brothers, and he came to the cafe and sat with me in the cafe. And I was like, "Oh, when's your wife? Isn't your wife like due any day now?" He's like, "Yeah, she's literally in labor right now." I was like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing?" I couldn't understand it. I was like, "Why are you here? What are you doing here with me?" He's like, "Oh, it's not for me, man. Those things aren't for me, bro." And I'm just like, and then that guy got divorced as well. That guy, funnily enough, got divorced as well. So there is this flavor of ack where, and actually I want to go into it. Well, maybe we'll go into the next point, because there's this flavor of ack that's very highly influenced by Tatism and red pillism. And I am the alpha, and the women will listen to me, and I have all these demands, and I am, it's like, oh, I receive, and the only giving I will ever give is throwing money at the situation, and romance myth And working on my marriage is a myth, and sitting down and communicating is a myth. And if you can't give me what I want without me having to express and explain, and it's a two-way street, because a wife will give you what you want if you give her what she wants. And I'm talking about intimacy. I'm talking about intimacy. I'm talking about what goes on at night. That's what I'm talking about. But no, it's everything is a mindset of I receive and I receive, and if I do not get what I desire, then I will look for it elsewhere. And without actually a collaborative approach. Because look, some sisters have barriers. Some sisters have, anxieties they need to work through. Some sisters, which isn't spoken about enough, have dealt with all sorts of sexual assault growing up, which loads of sisters have, when you wouldn't even believe it, whether it's like from a family member or a stranger or whatever, or they were touched inappropriately, and it builds a wall. It's like this, I'm blocked. I can't deal with anyone. It takes a long time for me to break that wall down, and I'm going to need a husband that's going to understand and work with me and collaborate with me and be patient with me, and we'll work through it together for those walls to break down. And intimacy becomes something that is just not enjoyable at all, and it's actually more of a chore, because a woman's mind works very differently to a man's. A man can be satisfied very easily. A woman, it takes a lot of work and a lot of intricacy and a lot of research and a lot of communication and a lot of barriers to be broken down. And that's too overwhelming for a brother. For a brother that just wants to take what he can get and keep it moving. That's what marriage is.
Yeah. I guess it's another element, another side to this phenomenon is pretty much the fast food culture, right? Of everything. Everything in life now is like immediate gratification, right?
100%.
No patience for anything, really anything. To get your food delivered, to eat, to flip and get your groceries, to, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's a good kind of reset coming to Algeria, because it's like, I used to pay my bills through my bank app on my phone. Now I got to walk to the office and wait in a queue and pay my bills. So, you wake up to this was even what I just described that I have to do in Algeria is very convenient compared to, in the past, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's another element, is just always, some people, I suppose, that's their mindset or whatever, is that I just want to go with the least resistance, quickest, easiest thing. Whereas, I don't know, I suppose I've fallen into that as well, right? Even when I think about business, for example, sometimes in business, you just got to be patient with certain things, like whatever marketing initiatives you're taking. And a lot of people actually, when something doesn't work within 1-2 months, they'll switch to the other thing.
Yeah.
But it's just that thing that they were doing takes 10 months.
Yeah.
And so they actually fail in the long term because they can't be patient enough. And I suppose that applies to all parts of life, man. If you're not patient in your marriage as well, like we're saying, they will just show up in this form. 100%. But I kind of empathize, or not empathize, I sympathize with this situation that we kind of described, where the guy's got married, he's happy with his wife, whatever. She's put on weight, and maybe for whatever reason, let's say it's really extreme, she put on weight and it's kind of really off-putting or whatever. The brother's got needs in the end. The ultimate, one of the main objectives of marriage is to have that halal way to express yourself. And he's a little bit stuck because, yes, of course, we can find ways where he could have done better or whatever. But now imagine sometimes, bro, when you put on a lot of weight, bro, most people, when they put on a certain amount of weight, they're not losing that weight. And not to mention with so many kids and being very busy, it can be very difficult. And so out of 10 people in this scenario that we just described, out of 10, bro, you could say 7 or 8, let's just say 7. 7 of those women would never lose weight, even if her husband tried and helped her.
I mean,
right?
Yeah.
And that's the guy. Now the guy's got a dilemma, right? Because he's like, well, Yani, I understand my wife wants to and all that. She's struggling, whatever. I can sympathize with her, but in the end, I need what I need. And am I just gonna accept life like this? Like, you know?
It works both ways, though, doesn't it?
And
How many guys?
at the
How many
same
guys
time, he
blow up
doesn't
when they
want
get
to.
married, bro? How many guys just like me, bro? I put on so much weight when I got married. I'm back down to like
What do
my
you mean?
marriage weight, but
Oh,
like it happens with guys as well. And then
no, that's
what I'm
fine.
saying is
We can
ultimately,
discuss that scenario.
yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is ultimately, either or could be trapped in a situation that needs communication to work through. And a woman doesn't like become obese
Yeah, but you
overnight.
can't communicate your way to losing weight.
No, I'm saying it needs to start before it's too late. It needs to start with the work
Well,
early on
yes, yes.
that makes someone love themselves and love to want to look after themselves. Because if someone has really low self-esteem, what is it that like leads to weight or leads to someone not taking care of themselves anymore? It's a lack of time.
I mean, it's 100 reasons.
But the main
Yeah,
three,
lack of time's a
the
big
three
one.
I'd say
Yeah.
is a lack of time, lack of energy, and a lack of what was the third one I was going to say? Lack of time, energy.
Knowledge of what makes you put on weight, maybe.
I think it's just a lack of self-esteem. That's what it is. If you feel like your wife thinks you're so handsome and so attractive, and then you want to keep that up. Like, I really like what you're wearing today. That jumper really suits you. That's a really nice haircut. Or, I love it when, like, my wife would say to me, I love it when you get a haircut. And admittedly, I haven't had a haircut in ages, but she's always gassing me up if I get a haircut. Or I put a new jumper on. She loves it. She loves this jumper. I just got this jumper. Big props. I was like, I should get
It's a
some more.
good jumper, bro.
I should get some more clothes. I should get some more. I should look after
Exactly.
myself more, and vice versa. And I'm not saying this to blow my own trumpet, but wallahi al-azim, akhi, 2 weeks ago, I went to my in-laws' house, and like my father-in-law makes a joke from the other side of the room, because me and my wife are there. He's like, "What is it with you two? You're like you're still on your honeymoon." And he said that to us, and I turned around and I'm like, "I've got 4 kids. I've been married for 10 years, and it takes a lot of work to get to where we are. But wallahi al-azim, I love my wife, maybe more than I did when I first got married." Because not only is yes, we feel like we're in our honeymoon in terms of our relationship, but we've got all of this sort of experience with each other that would make it 10 times better than what we were saying earlier, the novelty element of, I'm going to find something better than this elsewhere. If you can achieve a level of intimacy in your marriage that you would try and find elsewhere, whether it's something exciting or new or novel, etc. Imagine that, but with someone you've got history with someone that you love, with someone that you care about, with someone you've got memories with. Like, doesn't that sound more enticing than the unknown of some sort of stranger or something else, or a moment of a lust that will then ruin years or decades of marriage, or ruin your standing in society, or end up with this, I don't want to say leech, but it is a bit of a leech-like relationship of someone you agreed not to have much with, but then ended up wanting more, and this stress and this headache and this, my kids have found out, everybody knows I've done this and that or whatever, just for what
I mean, yeah.
what was it for though? It was for a
Sometimes
moment.
people focus a lot on, for example, with the gambling or lottery,
Yeah.
people just focus on what they can win and not what they
100%,
can lose.
100%.
So it makes it look a lot more attractive. But bro,
Go on.
going back to this real scenario
Yeah.
of the guy, I'm saying there's a guy in that, out of 10 of these couples, let's say 7 out of the 10, let's say the issue was weight, just because that's the story. 7 out of 10, she's not going to lose weight for whatever reason. As much as she tries, maybe he tries, whatever, she's not going to. Now the guy's like, okay, I've got a halal route where I can still have this family. I don't want to neglect my family. I don't want to divorce my wife. My wife's fine. It's just in that one area which happens to be quite important to me. I'm stuck. So he's thinking, yeah, Allah gave me a way out of this, where I can have both, if you like. But now, obviously, because you said his wife, the first marriage would probably fall apart if he went down that route.
Right.
Now it's very tough. I'm not going to lie. It's very tough.
I don't know, man. I'm still,
Because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's tough, and it's more tough than if a man puts on weight. Because a man really needs this, right? It's almost like, and maybe it shouldn't be like this, I don't know, but it's like an addiction. One of the definitions of addiction is that you can't, it's not that you want it, you just can't function without it, right? It's like, I don't need that heroin hit, But just to function, I need the heroin hit. That's addiction,
I
right?
just,
So it's a little bit like that, where it's like if maybe more people relate to this than heroin. It's like, imagine you're so starving, you're not bothered about eating, but you're just starving. So like, let me just eat something so that I can get back to work and
okay,
focus.
all right.
You know what I mean?
I just don't. I
So
think the premise, bro, is just where I get hung up. Like I'm with you up until a point, and then I kind
yeah,
of halt because I don't think, unless there's a woman, a wife that like says, "Oh, I don't want to lose weight at all. Like I'm fine. You deal with it." I think there's so much room that can be done, so much collaboration and so much teamwork and so much
yeah,
support me,
sure,
etc. But
sure,
also the person putting on weight, this lady, isn't a stranger to you. It's a
yeah,
wife that you love. It's not like suddenly, oh,
yeah,
because you've put on weight, I don't love you anymore. Well, then there's a love there to nurture, and I think, like you said, okay, they have this desire and they want to release this desire. Frankly, Akhi, it doesn't matter where they release it; it will be released. Wallahi al-azim, and that's the blunt truth. That's the blunt truth, because the attraction of a woman or the appearance of a woman is only plays so much into the act of I don't know, sexual release in an intimate setting. Okay, and that's it. Because at the end of the day, you could go and cheat on your wife, for example, and then straight away, doesn't matter how beautiful the woman is, straight away you feel awful and horrible afterwards because you've had your momentary release, your hormones have dropped, and now you're thinking, what the hell have I done? Why am I here? Oh, this person I had a whatever contract with. See you later. This Misyar thing, whatever it is. See you later. I'm going to go back to my wife and kids. Why? Why are you going back to your wife and kids? I thought you didn't love your wife and kids. Well, no, I do love them. Actually, this has nothing to do with love. This was actually just a release, sexual release, which you probably could have had with your wife if you'd communicated that better in the first place. I think we put too much emphasis on appearance in a marriage when actually, from my perspective, and maybe you could, I don't know, maybe you're comfortable discussing it or not. Your wife could be with makeup or without makeup, with a certain amount of weight or not, skinny, fat, and I'm not talking about like, there's a difference between overweight and like morbidly obese, Snorlax level. Maybe that was a bad example, but like, you know, I still look at my wife in every single one of those settings. Like, she will look beautiful when she's not wearing makeup, and she looks beautiful when she is. And the makeup enhances her beauty. And when she's not wearing it, I don't think, oh, you look ugly. It has never crossed my mind. But what kind of marriage is that where it's all based on, oh, you look ugly, I don't want to go anywhere near you? Where's the love there that nurtures that? I think love, as true love, and I'm not talking like true love like Hollywood true love, but I'm talking about like love, like a marriage that is built on mahabba and rahma. And there's so much khair in it that is nurtured this love within you. I think that that person will always look beautiful to you in a certain extent. It doesn't excuse a lack of effort to be put in on appearance and putting in effort and losing weight and making sure you're fit and healthy. How the Prophet ﷺ said that one should beautify themselves for their wife and a wife should beautify themselves for their husband. The Prophet ﷺ still speaks about that element. But I still look at my wife with love, and you should look at your wife with attraction all the time, and one enhances the other. The things you can add on enhance.
I don't think this has much to do with love, to be honest.
I think it does.
Like I said, I could imagine this scenario where the guy, bro, he loves his wife. He's got no problem with his wife, bro. It's his wife. It's the mother of his kids.
Okay, let me put it to you this way.
He just has a void in his life.
That void.
And he feels like Allah gave him an option where he doesn't have to have that void. And he can have his wife that he loves.
Okay, let's go back to that, because I think this is actually a different problem. I don't think this is a problem about the appearance of the wife. I think it's the problem of frequency of intimacy and how often they're intimate with each other, etc. Because let's be frank, if somebody,
well, I get your point. By the way, I just want to like clarify. Okay. What you said about, I like, maybe it's difficult for her to lose weight, this and that, but you should still try a lot, and it might take a lot of effort and all of that. I agree with that 100%. That's the first point of call. 100%. And it might require, like you said, sacrifices of time or watching the kids, this and that. 100%. I agree. That's like the first port of call in this scenario where, especially in this scenario where, having a second wife's not really an ideal solution, etc. 100%. And even if second wife was an option, yeah, it's always better to like obviously have a family and a household where everything's kind of spick and span. Everything's a good 7 or 8 out of 10,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep.
So I agree with you on
Yeah, yeah,
100%
of
on
course.
that. I'm just saying I could imagine quite a few of the scenarios where that's not
Of
even gonna
course.
solve the
But
problem.
I just
Yeah.
think, like I said, like it's actually a different problem. I think what happens is the marriage becomes stale, not because of someone's. I think the appearance is also like a knock on effect. It's either the cause or the symptom of a
Okay.
loveless or intimacy-less marriage, or one that has, when was the last time you were intimate with your wife? Oh, months ago. Oh, well, no wonder you're desperate for intimacy elsewhere. Okay, so can we communicate or work on how, like, what is blocking you from being intimate with your wife? What is blocking your wife being intimate with you? Oh, it's time. I'm always exhausted after I have the kids and blah blah blah. And if I had to, like, I'll give you an example. We've had a baby, and this baby, subhanallah, has been like the most beautiful nuclear bomb to my family. The first few weeks, oh, bro, up every like five, like you put them down. You're like, oh, they're asleep. Let's just put them down. As soon as I put them down, they start crying. Oh, pick him up. The other night, it's getting a little bit better now, but the other night, I put him down 2 minutes. Actually, put my head to the sofa. Oh, he's crying. I'm up again. Oh, I have to hold him. He won't sleep unless I'm holding him, but I can't fall asleep holding him because that's dangerous. Anyway, you can imagine. My wife obviously loses a lot of sleep looking after the kid, especially on a day that I've got to work, etc. I remember the first night, and I've never done this with any of my kids. This is the fourth child I've had now, alhamdulillah. I decided my wife's not waking up tonight. I'm going to have him all through the night. Every time he wakes up, I'm going to deal with him just to see what results, what fruits I can get from our marriage, from doing that, from taking one on the chin, so to speak. Because we always expect the wife's going to do all this all the time. What happens when? So we've got a cot here in the lounge, and we've got the sofa. And usually, what happens? Our routine is like 2 o'clock, 2 in the morning. I will come up and I'll hand over. I'll tag out, so to speak. All right, you're dealing with him for the rest of the day. And what my wife was doing actually is from 2 in the morning up until 9 p.m. the next day, or 9 p.m. 2 a.m. till 9 p.m. She would be awake. She would have him. She would feed him. She would whatever, and I would wake up. Fajr time, pray Fajr, go back to bed. Diddy dally, wake up at 8 afterwards, take the kids to school or whatever. And so I thought, like I said, 2 o'clock, fed him, changed him, managed to put him back to bed. I slept on the couch. He woke up at 4, changed him, fed him. But she woke up at like 7, 8 o'clock or whatever it was. Comes down, it's like, what are you doing? Why don't you wake me up? I said, don't worry, darling, this one's on me. Actually, that day, because she'd caught up on sleep, because she would felt energized, it was like I'd injected her with adrenaline, and she was just like this happy, bubbly, amazing, engaging woman with the kids and with me, and just super happy, energetic. And it's like, oh, and it made me think, oh, dude, if we could like give women time and sleep and space to rejuvenate, how much khair and energy would they bring back into the house? I used to have this thing where I wouldn't see brothers for a long, long time. And I still don't. I'd go to a gathering, akhi, whether it was a gathering of khair, a gathering of knowledge, a gathering just socializing. And I'd come back to the house. And my wife used to say this. She goes, oh, you don't get to see your friends for months, but when you come back after seeing them, you're so happy and upbeat and you really, engage with us, etc. You know what? Sometimes women need the same thing. Women don't need to be surrounded by kids 24/7. And maybe women need a break. And maybe women need to go out and, I don't know, exercise or go for a walk or read a book at the lake or whatever it might be. And they'll come back with this energy and this rejuvenation and not feeling like they're constantly having to work 24/7. And that's what goes back to that example we were given. This woman had the kids all the time, 24/7. The brother, unfortunately, he just didn't have that. He just assumed women have kids. I don't really deal with the kids. That's not my thing. I work and I come home. You do this job from what, I don't know, let's say 9 to 5. You come home, you sleep when you want, you eat when you want, you go to the gym, you go see your friends. You might play with the kids a little bit, but you're playing with the kids while she's cooking dinner. You're not playing with the kids while she's having me time or rejuvenating or. And actually, I've tried my hand at it, and I'm sure you have, bro. You've got a big family. It's fundamental that you're going to help around in the house and do stuff. You know, I had a week last week where I cooked every single dinner. And I can imagine, dude, doing this all the time and having the kids, and it's too much. Of course, I'm going to lose my mind. And I do get restless sometimes. And I do get like, just 5 minutes taken because my heads are going to explode. So all of that is underpinned with the communication element. Darling, I'm going to give you some more time. Look, you deserve to focus on yourself, give yourself some me time, rejuvenate. You know, we want to get this marriage back on track. What would make you love you? Because a woman that loves herself and thinks she's the bee's knees, like, God, you know what? I look good today. I feel good today. Will want to, reverberate that energy back into her husband and her household. No doubt about it. But a woman that is literally worked to the bone, her hair's all over the place because all she's thinking about is providing, serving, providing, serving. The last thing on her mind is like, the only time she's going to give you intimacy is if it's like a chore, not because she wants it. So you got to give a woman a space to desire it.
And women would do that, innit? Like, I think more often a woman would just give and give and give and give, 100%. Like without boundary. And a man won't give. He has to kind of choose to. Like, he doesn't do it as much out of instinct. So he has to choose to, but when he chooses to, I mean, that's leadership, isn't it? Because 100%. That's the initiative, 100%. Taking initiative.
100%. It's a big topic, bro. It's a huge topic. And, we're sort of surface level, picking at bits of it here. But you can see the general gist. And it's not like when I do speak about this stuff, because of the arena of the red pill and all that stuff, you get people that will call you a homo, people call you a simp, and people call you all this stuff. And at the end of the day, Akhi, the reason I'm so comfortable and happy to talk about it now and be so transparent about it, because, bro, I've got 10 years marriage, 4 kids. Like, my marriage is, alhamdulillah, the best it's probably ever been. And, like, we're just so in love and engaged with each other that this recently pubescent bachelor that's calling me a simp for discussing these things, you can stay single, Akhi. Like, fill your boots. Enjoy that lifestyle and think of yourself as.
But I will say, bro, I think that's an issue, and I think it's all the way all about the way that you describe it, really, right? So, real talk, yeah. If you tell me some of these things, like if you say, if you want your wife to XYZ, doesn't really matter what it is.
Yeah.
Then she can't be like worn out. Maybe you have to communicate to the married brothers what it's like to be that mother with young kids, especially when the kids are not at school and stuff, because maybe they don't know, right? And then you say, well, then take it to another, then go next stage, which is, okay, now you understand what it's like. Now, what if, she needs this for this time to herself, she needs this and that, then she'll do this, then she'll be more like this. That I think that can all make sense to people, actually.
Yeah.
But when you say, what was the thing you said on X? You're like, this guy won't admit he loves his wife.
Yeah.
That's not attractive, like tone.
Yeah.
That's gonna make people shut their ears, kind of thing. So it's all about, like, I think it's Dr. Leonard Sachs. His books are quite sick about, like, he's got a book called Boys Adrift and how to raise boys, etc.
Yeah.
He said that boys are shown one way of being masculine, but there are multiple ways of being masculine.
Yeah.
So when they see a boy still being masculine, but maybe in a different way, they just call that gay and they can't really relate to it. Yeah. So they don't want to, like, be like that, right? So I think the same goes here. It's like men need a way to learn how to basically get what they want from their marriage. That's basically what we're talking about here. We're not talking about being an amazing father and husband. We're just talking about getting what you want, basically, right? if you want to get what you want, you got to do certain things. And the reason you have to do those things is this. And this is why, and this is how it works, and blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't, for example, yeah, I'll tell you a real example. If you tell me, you know all that stuff that people talk about the Prophet ﷺ helped in the house? That's going over my head, straight up. Yeah, not the hadith.
Yeah.
Because I know the context of the hadith is like, he just helped in a logical way. Like, if he could help, he helps. If he got some time, he helps. I don't think it's like he, set a timer to always do the laundry and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you tell me, instead of telling me that hadith and trying to shove it down my throat in the way that you perceive it, if you tell me it's 2025, if your wife is not living near her close family, or she has close family to help her in the house, then she is under more burden of chores and stress, etc., than women 500 years ago, believe it or not.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah?
100%.
Okay, I can buy into that now. I don't know why, bro, but this is how I would take it. And I think a lot of men would understand that. They would start to realize, yeah, I want my wife to be like what I imagine women were like 500 years ago. But I didn't realize that women 500 years ago, they would not have one house where they're in charge of all the stuff in the house. They would kind of have a more communal thing where people are helping each other. Now I understand why I might need to help in the house more than a man 500 years ago might have to help in the house, because we chose to live, not always chose, but we live in this nuclear family setup where it's just one man, one woman, like two adults in a house, and two adults like taking care of the thing. So this kind of language, I think, is more appealing or more logical or makes more sense to the average guy. And maybe that's the way forward. It's not an attractive conversation, though, because it ultimately, anything that requires, effort and stuff from somebody, it's not going to be that attractive. But in the end, people made working out attractive. How did they do that? It's years of a lot of things coming together and making it seem cool, making it seem attractive, making it seem this, making it seem that.
Yeah, there is
making your look like your status rises when you whatever work out. So it can be done. It's a what's it called? A tough road, but it's just the narrative. I'm saying, like, the way that it's phrased, I think would make a big difference.
Yeah. I think like the one.
I think like Mahdi Tijani as well. He attracted a lot of guys' attention because he was speaking in a way that they could kind of understand.
Right.
Now, you could agree or disagree with his solutions. I don't even know what his solutions are, but I think that was the main thing. So the thing that gets people to perk their ears up is that initial empathy.
Yeah.
Just describing the problem in the way that they also describe it. And they're like, this guy knows me. This is like purely a marketing thing, by the way. They say, like, in marketing, if you can describe the problem better than the prospect will follow you.
Yeah.
They'll assume you know the solution.
Yeah.
Just because you describe the problem properly.
Yeah. But you could that marketing is there. I mean, you could sell it to somebody. This whole thing that we're talking about, I mean, this episode is that you could have, let's say to the guys, your wife could become everything that you hope and dream of out there without the headache and without the stress and without the guilt and without the shame,
and the
but
secrecy
with the love and the experience and what you actually started and built your marriage on, plus all this stuff that you didn't think was attainable.
As well.
With someone that you love. That's it. That's the ultimate thing. And guys,
but don't say love, bro. That makes people close their ears.
They do love it. They have to, bro. I don't agree with that. Bro, the Prophet ﷺ was asked who his favorite wife was, and he spoke about Khadija, and the way he would speak about Khadija radiallahu anha, for example, and to speak about how much he loved her and how much she was there for him, etc. Like, bro, guys are so. This fear of love is also
Prophet
how you are.
was much more sensitive and emotional than me. So there are going to be some areas where it's going to be difficult for me to follow that sunnah. So
this is it. Like, going back to the Prophet ﷺ, I think that's another issue as well, where we imprint our own idea of what the Prophet ﷺ is or was by selectively, even subconsciously selecting certain characteristic traits and negating or ignoring or being a bit oblivious to others. And it's very difficult, to be honest, it is, to look at the Prophet ﷺ in a holistic way and an accurate way, because we don't know him in that sense. Like, we haven't sat with him and spoke to him. We are going based off sporadic, You know, my perspective of the Prophet ﷺ is completely different to the next person's, despite the fact that we both have access to the same. Because
Yeah.
ultimately, what we do, and it reminds me of I'm going to use a video gaming analogy here. Have you ever played The Legend of Zelda? Okay,
No. Just heard of it.
the creator of Zelda is, you know, Sword and Shield and adventure, and you go out on an adventure, etc. He was once asked, why does your main character not speak? The main character in the game never really talks. You can select, in the modern games, you can select maybe some conversation options, but you never hear his voice. His argument was that the players connect with him more and imprint their own personality on him if he hasn't got one to begin with. Like, and
If he
that's the
leaves
same
some
with
gaps.
every video game, really. If you got a video game where you're playing the game and he's got a personality, oh, this main character is really funny, or he's really serious, or and he says this and he says that, and he's got this accent. You understand that character, but you don't see yourself in them per se. But when you've got a mute character and you're selecting the conversation things and you can't hear their voice, it's almost like, oh, I am that guy. That's me, you know? And we have that with the Prophet ﷺ's hadith in a way, because we read them, but we read them in our voice. You know, it's our voice we're hearing in our head. We read how he behaved in this situation, and we're like, okay, I can see myself doing that next time, inshallah. And like, oh, I imprint my understanding of masculinity on him as opposed to his understanding on me. And we contextualize certain things in a way, like you said, for example. I'm not saying you're right and wrong, by the way, that about helping in the house. Oh, well, he wasn't putting a timer on and saying I'm going to do the laundry every day, but someone else interprets that. You know, a sister might interpret that, or a brother might interpret that, or a different persuasion, and say, "Oh, so he's like maybe he scheduled it, like every day he would do." Like you're adding your own, and you're interpreting your own. So,
and that's purely from lack of knowledge, isn't it? Like when there's a gap, like you're saying with the voice gap in Zelda, you fill it in with whatever you want.
yeah.
But the more you're knowledgeable of the Prophet ﷺ and the Seerah,
Yeah.
the less you're able to put your own twist on it, and the more you just know what it is, what it is.
But there's temperaments as well. Like we take our knowledge from the scholars, and we take our knowledge from shuyukh and da'is, etc. And look at the personality variances and differences between all the da'is that are out there. You know, look at the difference between, I don't know, let's just for argument's sake, Sheikh Asim al-Hakim and Omar Suleiman. You know, just the difference. Yeah, they've sat in rooms together before, I'm sure, and they've probably been at events together, etc. And they're all drawing knowledge from the same Quran and Sunnah. But one person has a particular personality and a particular way of communicating things, and the other has another. And which one of those is close to the Prophet ﷺ? Because when I'm listening to Umar Sulaiman, I'm thinking, oh, Prophet ﷺ was, you know, like this gentleman and, you know, carries himself in this particular way. And then when I'm listening to Sheikh Asim al-Hakim, I'm like, oh, Prophet ﷺ was like this. And it's like, because you can't help it. You see someone that you look up to in terms of knowledge or the way they carry themselves in dawah, etc. And you just imprint in your mind, you know, how the Prophet was. But because we haven't met him, we do not know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do not know.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating, that element of it. But yeah, I was trying to think where to take it now. Yeah, if you could. Okay, so what are your thoughts so far on this element? Actually, what is your thought on this connection then between, you know, do you think there is a capacity for a lot of these guys that are looking outwards and letting their eyes wander? Do you think there is capacity for them to do a lot more work at home and the potential for them to really make their marriages flourish? Do you think that that's out there?
I can't even say, bro. I can't even judge. But what I would say is that it will be much easier for them and everyone involved if they do go down this path that we're discussing in terms of basically going deeper rather than wider, if that makes any sense.
Perfectly said. No, 100%.
You know, yeah. So yeah, that would just be easier. I mean, look, I could give an analogy, like a more mechanical analogy. One big, probably the biggest lesson I've learned in business is to succeed, you need to focus.
Yeah.
And so when one business is not doing well, you tend to want to start a second business.
Yeah.
But now I know from experience that starting the second business equals the death of both businesses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So I know that's the case. I mean, especially when they're in the earlier stage, you could
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
when they're maybe, when basically, I would say the point at which you can't hire a very high level employee to manage things in a business. You can't be in the position to start another business, right? Because you're that position in that business. So basically, yeah, it's better for you. It's cheaper for you. It makes more sense for you to try and fix what you already got. And that might take more effort than you think, but it's worth it and it makes sense.
The rule.
And if
Yeah.
and if after trying that, I think to realistically try that, it would take absolute minimum. It would be like a year of full effort, but maybe more than that. And I think, it's funny, bro. Like, was it when you were getting married?
Yeah.
I think it was when you were getting married. I think I sent you a book and I was telling you about these books and you're like, nah, I'm not really feeding these books,
Yeah.
right? You're like, I think from what I understood is that you don't want to learn about, especially about like marriage and relationships from a book. Like
Yeah.
it's too,
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't make sense to you. So whatever type of person you are, you could learn from other people, interviewing other people, maybe videos you can find where people are being interviewed about their marriage, or like Gottman Institute. Like the Gottman Institute, they have like the clear factors that cause a marriage to go well or not so well.
Yeah.
You can learn about these things. But what I benefited from personally, me, because I'm more of a mechanical guy, is I read these kind of books, these big famous books, not the type that is rare or whatever, like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yeah.
Like this was solid. I think it's a
Yeah.
good foundational thing. One of the top ones, though, I'm not going to lie, there's a bit more obscure, is The Way of the Superior Man. This is next level. This is, for these people that I was saying that they don't want to hear love.
Yeah.
That's for those people.
Okay.
Although it's a bit gay and hippie, I'm not going to lie.
I love it.
It has that element in it. But it's good. It's just sick. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some weird hippie spiritual stuff in
Yeah.
it. You could just delete that.
Yeah.
But I found that really good. There's also Imam Mikhail Smith. He wrote a book on emotional intelligence
nice,
of
yeah.
the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah.
Like that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that could help a lot of brothers. So you're gonna need to learn.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to have probably a lot of failed attempts at communication.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna anything in life. You're gonna learn and get better at it, and you're gonna see where it takes you. I don't think you should, and also I don't think you should go into this in a way thinking yeah, that's it, it's going to be done. Oh, he said 12 months. Okay, it's going to be done.
Yeah.
It might not fix it. But guess what? In the process of trying,
Yeah.
you're probably you're gonna feel some satisfaction. You're gonna grow as a man,
100%.
and you're gonna get ajr from Allah.
Yeah.
And if whatever happens at the end happens, yani qadar Allah.
Yeah,
But I think it makes sense, bro. It's the only way. You got to attempt this type of thing.
Ultimately, you listed some good resources. There's some great resources, and ultimately, what we're also arguing, the main argument we're making here, is the best resource is your spouse. If you can rip it off like a band-aid and just have that frank and candid conversation, and it's difficult, I think, you spoke about when I was getting married and I wasn't keen on looking at these books and that. Dude, I know for a fact, me back in 2016, it was. Oh yeah, almost 10 years. Bro, clueless. No idea. Thought I knew all sorts about love and marriage and stuff. And I'm telling you now, now I feel like, I've got a grip of this. And it took a lot of ups and downs and understanding and communication and whatever. But my biggest issue, and I'll be blunt, my biggest issue was I was too shy. I was too, I came from a background where that stuff isn't spoken about. And at the same time, you set the tone in the beginning of your marriage. Because I didn't know that my wife had XYZ thought or XYZ interest, because I never spoke to her about it, and she was too shy to speak to me about it. So it just stayed there.
Yeah.
It's frozen in that space, and we never approach it.
Yeah.
And do you know how we found a space to actually communicate freely about this sort of
Freshly
topic?
grounded card game.
No. Well, yeah, we did that, but unfortunately that isn't explicit enough. But
Okay.
what we found, the space to do it was when I would travel to Tunisia. Okay, so I can communicate via text way more confidently than I can in front of face to face. And I think a lot of people like that in our generation. I can type out something, think about it, Do I send it? Do I not? Right? And then
Yeah.
don't have to deal with the backlash immediately, like give you space, reply, etc. When I was in Tunisia, I was just texting my wife. We were just texting each other all the time. That distance, that kind of barrier. Suddenly I
Yeah.
realized, like we are. She sent me a clock. She sent me an emoji of a clock. It's run out of time.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
suddenly I realized, like there's this whole other world to my wife that we haven't really explored. And likewise me, because we just never really had the bravery or confidence to communicate about these things in front of each other. And then we explored that and we engaged with that. And then when I come back from Tunisia, we would have that energy and that, that level of connection, but then it would wane because we'd get into the mundane and and then I remember like one day just saying, you see what we had when we weren't when we were apart? Let's try it. Let's aim to keep that going. And like, what can we do to keep that? And then we realized, okay, like we need to give each other time, or we need to gas each other up to have, the self-love and the self-appreciation and self-esteem to want to keep up appearances for each other. Okay, look, you haven't bought makeup in like a long time, actually. Let's make that a goal, because really that was at the bottom of my priority list, getting my wife makeup, because I didn't think she needed it. I don't think my wife needs makeup. She looks great all the time. But no, she needs it to feel good about herself sometimes, which gives her energy and confidence and, enthusiasm to be connected to me, etc., etc. These are the things I didn't think about.
Right.
Would you know why I found out about them? It's because I spoke to her. It's because suddenly I understood makeup and I gave it some level of appreciation, because I didn't care, I didn't understand, I didn't know. Or certain dress or certain outfits or certain whatever it is, certain things that are too gay and homo for a man to show any level of interest in. I suddenly started looking into, like, why does it cost like hundreds of pounds to get a woman's hair done? That doesn't sound like a good investment to me. Well, this is what I used to say. It cost me 20 quid to get my hair done, max. Why does it cost you 200? Nah, that's not a good investment. I don't understand that. I'm not going to invest in that. Oh, okay. Suddenly I wasn't appreciating what she appreciates, which also gives her confidence and better self-esteem, which makes her energetic and excited about life and excited about herself and excited about marriage, which brings a positive energy back into the household. And this isn't just our spending money for the sake of it. This is about what those core things mean and what value we have put to them, that actually
Yeah.
you'll find some
Yeah.
overlap that you weren't aware of. But yeah, we could go on forever.
You're being very vulnerable, mashallah. You're giving some tactical advice.
Yeah, maybe a bit too much. The issue I have is that my mother listens to this podcast, so shout out to my mum, because this is very embarrassing for me.
Do you think she's going to reach the end, right at the end?
Wallahi, Aki, you know what? My wife sent my mum like this big text message about how happy she is in our marriage and stuff, and my mum sent another text message back, and I just sat there and I thought, this is what it's about. These are the fruits. I saw that and I was like, this is amazing. It's amazing that my wife feels so happy in our marriage that she can share that with my mum, and amazing that my mum can feel so happy that her son is in a happy marriage, that she can celebrate that, instead of, my wife texts, like a wife, not mine, but a wife texting, your son, I thought you raised him better and he's just gone and got a sick. Did you know about this? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, what do you mean he's got a cigarette? I didn't know. And then the drama and all of that momentary pleasure that you had has just turned into hell on earth, because you didn't want to go down the long, hard road and the more fruitful road. And instead, you wanted to satisfy your desires for this very, small and narrow outlet that, after a few minutes or a few hours of that experience, now you've got to deal with the fallout and the consequences. It's not, it's not conducive. But maybe we'll do a part 2.
I will say though, bro,
Go for
I think we need to leave this part. I need to say this while we're in the same episode.
Go for it.
The whole thing about fixing your current marriage, if you're not happy with your current marriage, in order to uncover levels of intimacy that you didn't feel able to achieve in your current marriage, is one thing. But I would say the whole attraction to variety and novelty I think that's cool, bro. Like, I think that's fine. I think that's normal, you know. But it just shouldn't come from a place of my marriage is messed up, so I need another marriage. That's not seeking variety. I think that's just
Each work.
avoiding fixing your marriage, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the whole thing of because in the notes it says like variety is like was it intimacy
Let's
is
have a
better
look.
than variety or
Variety
something.
is escapism, not growth.
Men are taught that variety is the
Oh, yeah.
path to happiness,
Yeah.
right? But like I think that's fair enough. You know, if a guy has a marriage, he's happy with it, everyone's all right, and he wants another wife, even for variety, it's fine. It's kind of like you've got 3 kids, you got a fourth kid. The fourth brings variety, and they all bring different flavors. And sometimes you're mad at one of your kids, 2 of your kids. They're really doing your head in with a certain thing. They're in a phase, right? It doesn't mean that you're having a fourth kid because the first one is doing your head in these days. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I mean,
So
some of the most
there is that
successful.
element as well. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I was just going to say, some of the most successful, I don't know, polygamous marriages I've seen online at least are like when the man is sitting there with both his wives and they're like, he's happy about it and they're happy about it and they're confident and they're a family and they're a unit and it's like, okay, you're a pretty impressive husband. You know, you're a pretty impressive husband. Your wife's happy with you. That wife's happy with you. They're proud of you. They communicate with each other. It's a family unit like any other family unit. As opposed to, yes, there's jealousy and there's whatever. We spoke about the normalcy of that. But
well,
what we
that's a
said,
pretty high level.
yeah, it's a high level. But we spoke about earlier, like you said just now, there's a path, isn't there? And the path of, oh, this is wrong with you, this is wrong with you, this is wrong with you, fix it, fix it, fix it. Oh, you didn't fix it. All right, see you later. You know, that
Yeah,
is a recipe for disaster.
and also, I was mentioning a few things like books or whatever you could read, but I would say do not listen to any kuffar talking about relationships and marriage and stuff. It
Really?
will mess you up, bro.
Really?
I don't mind about like some of the books I referenced. They're from kuffar, but they're old school. Bro, some of this stuff that I come across, it's fully infected with individualism and completely non-Islamic way of viewing things, right? It's really it's gonna mess you up, you know.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's gonna mess you up. It's basically a lot of what I've seen it teaches you is just whether it's for the women or for the men. It's basically teaching you to be more individualistic, more, focus more on you, get more from you, get, don't give, take more. And it's wrong. It's going to mess you up, right? Yeah. Sometimes just what you're expecting or your perspective on something, that alone will mess you up, right?
Yeah.
So you wanna go to. I personally, I found the old school, like American or whatever sources, to be okay. I didn't see huge conflicts with Islam, but then also Islamic, obviously Islamic sources. And what are the Islamic sources? Because it's not like there's a book on marriage by Imam so and so per se. But look, there's like, for example, there's, maybe it's not the best example, but I think with Sheikh Munajjid, he wrote a book, How Did He Treat Them? It's translated into English. It's called How Did He Treat Them? And it's about how the Prophet ﷺ dealt with different people in different situations. That's what the whole book is about. And it's pretty much just hadith after hadith of how he dealt with different people. I think, just because that's what I can think of right now off the top of my head, this type of book will help you in your marriage because it's basically teaching you about how the Prophet ﷺ dealt with people. Some of those people are women and some of those people are men. But you're going to get, like we said, like a more well-rounded view of the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah.
And maybe if I think of other stuff, I'll mention it. But
I definitely think as well, like shout out to, I know I mentioned him earlier, but Habib Akande, like I came across his content through Historion. Historion did a interview with him and it was like sexology and scholars talking about that kind of, aspect. And I was
Habib
like,
Akande, he's where can they find him? Like where
he's on Twitter and Instagram and
YouTube.
He has got 3 books, at least 3 books on this kind of topic.
Okay.
Here we go, like A Taste of Honey, Sexuality and Erotology in Islam. He's a student of Al-Azhar. But
I've seen. I found him on Instagram.
He is hyper fixated on that topic. Like that's his specialty clearly, and you will have like I had a knee-jerk reaction watching some of that stuff or listening to some of his interviews, because it was very much like explicit, boom. And I'm not used to any, Muslim speaker speaking so candidly. And like I had to force myself over the hump of like, oh, this seems wrong. But then I realized that's exactly the issue that gets people where we're talking about in the first place, of the inability to have that conversation or listen to something like that in an Islamic setting. Um, so when I listened to that, I was like, and I think the fact that it was Historion that kind of opened that path for me, because I already followed that channel, etc. I was like, oh wow, that's fascinating. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's amazing. And then I just went down this rabbit hole, and suddenly I realized, oh, this explains so much of what we spoke about today, and it led me into this kind of discussion. Um,
Okay.
and yeah,
Nice.
it's a great kind of resource, just to expose yourself to it, that discussion, especially from an Islamic perspective. But we'll leave it there.
I think, like, sorry, bro.
Yeah, go for it.
I have to get this off my head. Courage.
Yeah.
Courage. I've thought of this in the past because I sometimes want to discuss certain topics, not with my wife, with family members.
Yeah.
And I find it very awkward. I don't know what the word is. I find it very awkward. And in that moment, when I'm finding it awkward, I'm like, damn, what is it that has such a hold over me that I find it hard to discuss this? I'm literally just talking, right? I'm not going to battle.
Yeah.
I'm not, putting my life and limb on the line. But I'm like, damn, this. And, now and then I break through those barriers that are there. And it's hard, it's hard. And I'm just saying that to say that courage comes in different forms. And sometimes just speaking can require courage. And I don't even mean going to speak to Fir'aun. Obviously, that does take courage. But the crazy thing about that is you would understand that speaking the truth to Fir'aun, you get your head chopped off or whatever,
100%,
right?
Yeah.
But why am I so scared to speak to my whatever, family, wife, whatever, about this topic? It's kind of crazy. But then you realize, well, this is also what courage looks like,
There's
so,
a lot. I mean, look, I really want to do like a part 2 maybe, and maybe when we get this out, we could get some feedback and stuff.
Okay.
But like there are some elements, and I'll just call them off here. Like, let's talk about, kids, for example, sex education with kids. If you haven't got the courage to speak to your wife, how are you going to teach your kids, about sex and feelings and intimacy? I remember mentioning marriage in front of my 8-year-old or 7-year-old at the time, Suleiman, once, and one of my family members was like, whoa, why are you talking to him about marriage? That's chill out. And I was like, that's marriage, let alone when I talk to him about how babies are made. And the reason I'm so open with my kids about marriage and feelings towards other girls, even if I'm like doing it in jest, it's because I want to normalize that, because we live in a society that promotes homosexuality and weird stuff. And I want them to know that, number one, it's normal to feel a certain type of way about the opposite gender. This is the outlet for feeling like that is marriage. And if you ever want to talk about marriage, I'm your guy, and I want you to learn from me how, the birds and the bees, so to speak, as opposed to Henry in year whatever, who's going to tell you X, Y, Z because he watched some illicit video on his mum's laptop or whatever it is. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like the hellscape that is out there, I want my kids to be well prepared and already know the norms and what's acceptable and what's normal before they go and get exposed to whatever, because suddenly that becomes
unavoidable, man.
It's unavoidable. So, of course, there's that. The other thing is about the fear element, the ghira. There's this level, and I think that was going to require maybe a scholarly discussion, but there's this notion of ghira, so much so to the extent that it cripples an individual from ever gaining or learning or engaging with these ideas. Because, like me talking, like I know for a fact there's people that think, and I'm sure they do, that I'm probably way too open about my relationship or my marriage or whatever it might be. But I don't personally think I'm doing anything or saying anything that is beyond the scope of what the Prophet ﷺ may have spoken about in terms of relationships or advising. Or, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, some people can't say my wife's name. Don't you dare. You think about my wife. What do you mean? How's my wife? How's my family? Don't you dare. you know, and there's adabs and there's different cultures and there's different norms, etc. But I've had it, Akhi, where a friend of mine was going through a really bad divorce, really difficult, you know, and he needed a woman's perspective. And I invited him to my house, and me and my wife sat in the same room and we advised him together, you know, and we had that conversation. And that thought to another friend of mine was like, so your friend sat in the same room as your wife? What are you talking about, bro? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. Because when we go to Tesco's, the cashier is also a guy and he serves us both. Like it's different contexts or whatever. We're trying to benefit a Muslim brother. It's not the end of the world. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So like, that's another conversation for another day. And then we can keep going down the list, and maybe we'll share this in the Telegram group, these notes, and we can get some feedback. But I was meant to go to the gym right now, and here I am.
Well, let's do a part 2, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And we'll end this right now.
I'm very impressed, by the way. I'm very impressed with your engagement in this episode, because I thought the fear would cripple you. I said to my wife earlier, I said, listen, we're going to do this episode. Don't know how much Amin's going to be into this. I feel like I might do all the talking here. He's not going to be comfortable. So
well, you always do all the talking, right?
Oh, sorry.
Nah, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, bro, that's all good.
Nah,
I mean, it's important, man.
It is, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, jazakumullah khair. Thanks, bro, for all of your vulnerability and openness.
Next episode is going to be your marriage story. We're going to get it all on paper.
Oh.
The blueprint.
No. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, I think that was good.